Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the second update's new power dev server, and it's time to have a look at the Yak-38. There are two of them which are being added to the game for the Soviets, and at least right now they seem exactly the same. There is no real difference between them apart from the standard Yak-38 is a premium at 9.7 and also available for GE in the game. You can find it in the aviation portion of the game at rank 5 right here. It should have the same price as the Hunter GR1 in the British tree, and then when it comes to the Yak-38M, it's sat here at rank 6 when it comes to its positioning. So after the Yak-30, meaning that it'll be easier to research the Yak-30, which is at least nice for it, so that is all good. The Yak-38 has 660, 690% rewards on it respectively, which is incredibly good for a premium aircraft, especially one of this caliber, so that is something to look forward to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this review into one video, and the reason for this is because when it comes to the Yak-38 and the Yak-38M, because they're so similar, there's not really much to talk about other than the fact that they are the same. So see this on the Yak-38 as both reviews basically for both vehicles, because they are the same at least as of right now. So the Yak-38 has access to 3 separate engines, which is kind of interesting. It has the two here, which are the Kolesov RD3635 FVs with 2650 kgf each, and then it has this back here, the proper engine, the Tamansky R27V300 jet engine with 6000 kgf. So these are pretty much specifically designed for the VTOL stuff, and you know, some other things as well. But then you've got the big old engine which is designed for both. And then you've got the fuel tank in the center, one at the back as well, and then obviously the pilot in the front. Armor protection, there is none on this vehicle right now, unfortunately. Hopefully at some point that will change in the future, but we'll have to see when it comes to this protection analysis. Obviously it's just going to go straight through the plane because of obvious reasons. So modifications wise, this thing gets access to a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of different ordnance, and I think that is the key to this plane. I don't actually think the key to this plane is its flight performance. It's all of the extra bells and whistles that this thing gets. So if you have a look at the secondary weapons, it gets access to a bunch of different things. S5KPs, which are a new rocket in the game. They pen 250. But they don't have a ton of explosive mass, only 0.44, and go at 520 meters per second. You can get some extra gun pods on this thing, 23mm. Also the S24Bs, which are nice to see once again. Then 250 kilo bombs, 500 kilo bombs, and also some hundreds as well if you want to bring them along. You can bring along 4 S24Bs if you want to, and then also a new type of missile. Now this thing gets access to R60s as its standard air-to-air missile and nothing else. That is the same R60 that you find at the Soviet top tier at 10.7 with the MiG-21s. So well, I would say the best IR missile that the Soviets have, and now it's on a 9.7 vehicle, so we'll see how that goes. And then the Kh-23m missiles. These are new missiles that the machine has access to, and what they are is very, very interesting. So these are SACLOS missiles, semi-automatic guidance. These are mouse-guided AGMs, basically. They have an explosive mass of 75 kilos, which is approximately 3 times the size of the Nord, that's the AS Nord that the G91 carries. So they're going to have quite a large boom to them when it comes to it. And yeah, you guide them with your mouse. They have a maximum overload of 2 Gs and a maximum speed of Mach 2 with a launch range of 10 kilometers. So you can fire them from miles away. If you want a demonstration of how they work, I'll show you them in the the test area, and also show you the VTOL capabilities of this machine. I wouldn't say that this is as flexible as some of the other machines that we've seen when it comes to the VTOL. I think the Harrier is a lot better machine at controlling than this. This feels more like a whale. So you can see the cockpit is fully modeled, at least on the premium version. It isn't fully modeled on the standard version. I'm sure they look basically the same. But yeah, this is the cockpit for the Yak-38. Looks incredibly nice. So with the VTOL stuff, the top part pops, this bottom part pops, letting the engines out of its little area, and then if you just put the wheels in, you can just see that you go straight up and just can hover about. This thing does not get access to anything when it comes to it doesn't get access to war emergency power or an afterburner or anything like that. It's just one of those vehicles which has a decent amount of power out of its general engines, and that's about it. So to go from this, you know, you can knock it down to like maybe 45%, so we can gain some forward momentum, and then you can just drop it to 0, and then guess what, we're going straight. So how do these missiles work? Well, first of all, this thing has a ballistic computer. The ballistic computer is for the gun and also for the rockets. No bomb ballistic computer or no missile ballistic computer. But if you watch this AGM here, so we'll aim it here, you can see if we move the cursor, it follows the cursor in and will actually hit where the cursor goes. So that means that instead of like on the Nords where you control them with your keyboards after launch, what you do with this machine is you control it with your mouse. So very similar to how ATGMs on the ground work compared to, you know, other stuff that is about. And I said this thing handles a little bit like a bucket. It doesn't have the best characteristics when it comes to its flight performance. It doesn't turn exceptionally well, doesn't have great acceleration, doesn't really do anything that amazing, but it does have access to RWR. It does also have access to a ton of different ordnance and also the best missiles that the Soviets have to offer, which should be a little bit of a feather in the cap. So you can see here we can guide it in and try and hit that tank right there. Oh, went up a little bit there. Yeah, I kind of screwed that. But you can see the general idea, right? If you can keep your mouse straight, which unfortunately is something that I generally can't do, then yeah, that's how they work. It's a worrying fact that we have another expansion of AGMs in the game, especially ones that are this powerful when it comes to a vehicle. So we'll have to see how they affect the general ground meta, because at 9.7 the Soviets already have a pretty decent 9.7 lineup. It's definitely nothing to be trifled with. Now, when it comes to skins and stuff for these vehicles, I'm pretty sure they don't have any. So what you see is what you guess, this interesting turquoise color, which isn't, you know, the best in the business, but I suppose it's good enough. And for the mission editor, you can just set up a head-to-head if you want to try this thing out and give it a go. The R60s are incredibly dangerous against pretty much every aircraft, and I'm a little bit worried with the general idea that what we have going on is something which is generally seen as a top tier to wear at the BR that you find it at. I am kind of worried that that is the case for this machine, but I feel like that's just going to be like the standard going forward for machines like this. Like, I look at like the Harrier, right? And the Harrier now has flares at 9.7. That is unprecedented when it comes to these high-tier vehicles. That is not normally something that you see going on with them. It also has access to, you know, AIM-9Gs and also SRAMs, depending on what the variant is. And with this getting access to our 60s, we're putting in a situation where if you're in an 8.7, you're going to get absolutely clapped by our 60s. They have 30G maximum overload, they have 8 kilometer range, they have a really long lock-on as well. So you won't be able to get away from them, you won't be able to, do anything like that, you're just going to end up getting clapped by them. So the only thing which is really stopping this vehicle from taking over this BR is going to be the fact that at 9.7 a bunch of supersonics are there, so they should be able to out-energy fight this thing all day because of the fact that it is quite a slow, unmaneuverable barn, which for me, it means in ground realistic with those AGMs, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then when it comes to air realistic, it's going to have a few issues, moving around the place and not being, the most maneuverable thing, especially when the Harriers are about, and especially with a lot of sabers around at the BR. But it's going to get bailed out so much by its AGMs. It's going to be completely ridiculous. Like, the R60 is just a great missile. It's one of those ones where it feels really lovely to use, just like stuff like the AIM-9Js that you have for the Sidewinders. You see the beautiful fire effects there on that vehicle. And the only problem is not the missile, it's not the AGMs, it's not the bombs, it's the actual platform that they're sat on. So while turning in this thing, you can see how much energy it loses, and the fact it takes ages to turn is obviously going to be a problem for it. Like, it does feel like a whale, but the Harrier doesn't, and I'm actually more worried about the Harrier because of the way that this thing handles compared to sorry, not the way that this thing handles, but compared to some other vehicles, the Harrier handles incredibly well and has access to really good air-to-airs, where this thing has access to better air-to-airs, but it doesn't handle really well at all. It just handles like a brick. The VTOL stuff, as I've said before, I see it as a gimmick. I don't think it's really going to have any effect on the game at all. It's nice to see, but it's more nice to see because now we get the vehicles which make it interesting because of the VTOL ideas. The fact that we haven't had VTOL for a long time and we haven't had access to Harriers because of that has made me very sad. But now VTOL is here. It's nice that we are getting access to stuff such as, these special VTOL aircraft. There aren't a ton of them around the place, these VTOL aircraft. So to have some of them in the game is incredibly positive, and I'm happy with the fact that we do have them. I'm just hoping that there will be a place in this game instead of just a glorified missile thrower, or a glorified AGM chucker. Is there actually going to be any reason to play this outside of that, or is it just going to be because of its, is it just going to live or die by its secondary weapons, which at least for now is how it's looking like. I hope the case is that is not the case, but we'll have to see with this vehicle. It is at least a beautiful cockpit, it is at least beautiful secondaries and a good 23mm gun. Hopefully this thing doesn't just live or die by its secondaries. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez B. Young, and also Hans Vergellen, Sebastian Mizon, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.